These tourist places were once incredible, but we can't visit them anymore. Everybody loves a good vacation and opportunity to travel and explore. But what if we were told that some of the most stunning tourist destinations in the world are now off limits? Once popular spots are no longer accessible, or simply no longer exist, and we are to blame. Here is a list of the 10 once popular vintage tourist spots, which are now confined to history and lost forever. The Statue of Liberty Torch. Lady Liberty has welcomed millions of immigrants to the American shore for more than a century. She also draws in tourists who want to get to know her personally. Back in the early 1900s, you could actually go to the torch and look at all of New York City, what the statue is like from above. It was a spectacular view. But then, July 30, 1916, there was an explosion on Blacktop Island in New York Harbor. Shrapnel hit the nearby Statue of Liberty, closing off the arm to future visitors. Even after 102 years, it is unclear why guests are still not allowed inside. Maybe one day there will be a change to this. But until then, we can enjoy the views from the statue's webcams, which offer views from the torch. Thank you, EarthCam. It's pretty magnificent. Azure Window. If you ever thought about visiting the island of Malta, it might be because you saw the Azure Window on many destination travel blogs. It was a big deal on Instagram too. Influencers love to show off next to this limestone marvel, and it was even featured in Game of Thrones. It's been around for centuries and became a very popular tourist destination. Sadly, the window no longer exists. Mother Nature had the final word, and we can't argue. Even though it weathered countless storms over the years, one finally turned out to be one too many. In March 2017, a storm caused the natural structure to come crashing down. Thankfully, this natural scenery was caught on film so often. The Pioneer Cabin Tree. We've always wanted to drive through a giant tree, but honestly, where can we do that? Back in the day in California, visitors to Calaveras Tree State Park actually could. The tree was 1,000 years old, which made it even more intriguing, and it attracted thousands of tourists to the park. The tree tunnel had graffiti dating to the 1800s, when visitors were encouraged to etch their name into the bark. Most cars could fit through with ease. But sadly, nothing lasts forever. That all changed when a big storm ravaged the area in 2017. That's when the Pioneer Tree Cabin fell and stayed down. The tree was over 1,000 years old and measured 33 feet in diameter. RIP tree. Kailua Beach. Kailua Beach in Hawaii was a magical place while it lasted. The site was known as a world-renowned black sand beach, a color that was strangely satisfying. Thousands of tourists flocked to this unique experience until 1990. There are few places on earth to see pitch black sand between your toes. And now, there is one fewer, thanks to Kailua volcano. Beginning in 1983, eruption from the Kailua volcano began to affect the area, completely covering it by 1990. Not only was the beach destroyed, but the town of Kalapana was buried. Locals managed to rebuild it, but the beach was another story. Now, all we have are dreamy photos. Original Shakespeares Globe. To be or not to be? Anyone who is a fan of Shakespeare will want to see the Globe Theatre. Well, unfortunately, you can't see the original Globe Theatre. I know, it's about as sad as one of the Bard's tragedies. The original Globe was built in 1599 by William Shakespeare's playing company. In 1613, during a performance of Henry VIII, a cannon was shot, which ignited the thatched roof of the gallery, and within an hour, the theatre burned to the ground. But a second Globe Theatre opened on the same site exactly 1 year later. This theatre too ended up closing in 1642. This theatre has some serious bad luck. The current building, called Shakespeares Globe Theatre, opened in 1997 and is approximately 750 feet from the original theatre. It's nice, but just not the same. The original Penn Station. New Yorkers are all pretty familiar with Penn Station. It's a major hub for travel in the metro, and it's always pretty full. Few have probably wondered what it was like in the olden days. The original Penn Station was a site that even the busiest commuters appreciated back in the day. Built in 1910, it was glamorous for sure. From the intricate architecture to the massive glass ceiling, it was not an ordinary city building. Sadly, in 1963, it was torn down and remade. Now, all we can do is admire the pictures and only imagine the true vibe. The Berlin Wall. The Cold War was a prolonged period of tension between America, its allies, and the Soviets and their allies. Each power wanted to rule the world, and it was a pretty intense struggle. And Germany was caught in the middle for decades. The eastern half of the country was controlled by the Russians, and the western half was controlled by the US. This resulted in a wall being built to separate East Germany from West Germany. Construction of the wall started on 13 August 1961, and it stood until 1989. When the wall finally fell due to public pressure, the site was iconic. But what about the wall as it once was? Although parts of the wall are still up as a reminder, you can no longer visit it in its original form. Few are sad about that though. Lovelock Bridge. There once was a local, quirky tradition on a bridge over the River Seine in Paris. A 2006 Italian novel turned film is thought to have created this practice, which started in Rome and quickly spread. People would attach little locks to the Pont d'Arc bridge, and it quickly created an incredible display over time. It was all fun and games until officials realized there were over 700,000 locks clipped on the bridge, roughly the same as 20 elephants. They did the maths and that amounted to 45 tons. They feared all this weight would simply cause the bridge to collapse. So, in 2015, municipal workers cut them off. And that was the end of the locks. That hasn't stopped people from trying though. But there are plenty of other attractions in Paris. So don't worry, you won't be bored. Six Flags, New Orleans. The park opened under the name Jazzland on May 20, 2000. It operated as Jazzland until the company went bankrupt in 2002. Six Flags purchased the park and spent $20 million to upgrade the park and reopened it in April 2003 under the name Six Flags, New Orleans. On the morning of August 29, 2005, just after sunrise, Hurricane Katrina made landfall in New Orleans. Because the park was located next to Lake Pontchartrain, water from the lake overflowed into Six Flags New Orleans. In the storm's aftermath, the park was left submerged 6 feet deep, taking over a month for the water to leave the park and leaving destruction in its wake. With everything damaged, rusted and overgrown with vegetation, maybe one day they will rebuild it so you and I can ride again. Original Wembley Stadium, London. If you're looking for a good football match, no, not the American kind, Wembley Stadium in England is the place to be. Surprise though, it isn't the original one people played back in the day. The original Wembley opened in 1923 and hosted 125,000 fans. It was demolished from 2002 to 2003. Fans of the original were not too pleased. It's hard to admit, but the new Wembley is much bigger and more impressive than the original. Still, fans took particular issue at the destruction of the 2 towers that adorned the building. I guess not everyone can be pleased. Now, I want to turn it over to you. What other destinations would you add to this list? Which tourist spots no longer exist? Let us know by leaving a comment below. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Just click on the subscribe button below.